Hi all, this is Sean. So today's video is a little bit random. I thought I would make a video about the music of Francoise Hardy and the fact that I've just read her autobiography. So here is her autobiography. It's a really weird title. It's called The Despair of Monkeys and Other Trifles. And as you may or may not know, I'm a Francophile. I like French culture and French music. And I've always quite liked Francoise Hardy because she first came about in the 60s and the music is kind of a little bit rock and roll, I guess. And I like that style of music in English music as well. I think she was influenced by the Shadows and the Everly Brothers and kind of simple rock and roll music like that. In French, in France, it was called Yeah Yeah, the type of music, and it's cool. It's quite simple and quite innocent and really tame, I guess, by today's standards. But I like that sort of music anyway. And as I got further into Francoise Hardy's music, I realized that obviously she's still alive now. She's, I think, 79, and she went through various phases in her career, and she's got lots of really, really good music. So you should check it out if you've not heard about her and you like French music and you like French culture. She's probably most famous in the English-speaking world for loads of rock and roll musicians fancying her in the 60s. Bob Dylan, apparently, and Mick Jagger and all these other people. But also, if you're a fan of music in general, she was on one of the songs on Parklife, the Blair album. She's the French singer who sings part of the song to the end. And yeah, so the autobiography is really interesting. I mean, obviously, Francoise Hardy, I'll put pictures up and things like that. It was and is a very beautiful woman, and she was kind of an icon of 60s style. And as I said, all these famous rock stars, were in love with her apparently. And she was also married to a French actor called Jacques Dutronc. Jacques Dutronc. And they were like a famous couple, and both impossibly cool and French and handsome and beautiful. And it's really interesting, like psychologically, the book, because it talks about her upbringing and the fact that she had a really cold grandmother, and her grandfather was basically mute and he never spoke to her, and her mother was troubled as well. She grew up with a sister who was schizophrenic, and she suffered from schizophrenia, and she had like really crippling kind of self-doubt and anxiety, and she was a very deep thinker and incredibly unsure of herself, despite the fact that she was one of the most beautiful women in the world. And I think another thing about this book that's quite interesting is that it documents this really interesting time. So if you're a fan of music, particularly music from the 60s and 70s, Bob Dylan and the Beatles and things like that, she met all of these people because she was famous at the time. So she says how she prefers George from the Beatles because he was the most introverted one. But she talks about the animal magnetism of Mick Jagger, and she recounts meeting Bob Dylan and talks about his cadaverous face and overly long nails, which is hilarious if he was in love with her, because obviously he had no chance. So I found the book really interesting, and I think for me, I love all sorts of different types of music, and it kind of teaches me that don't discount anything, even if you don't think you're gonna like it. Even if it's in another language, you can still enjoy it, and you can still get something from it. I really like Spanish music as well. I can't speak Spanish, but it's something kind of liberating about not being able to understand the words and just enjoying the music for what it is, the melody and things like that. So yeah, in terms of Francoise Hardy's music, I would say, check it out, particularly if you're a Francophile. Some things that really wouldn't work in English language music. For example, one of her most famous songs is called Message Personnel, and the verses are spoken and the chorus is sung, and that kind of thing wouldn't really work in English, because you know it's a really cool and beautiful language, French, and it sounds really good when it's spoken. So what I thought I'd do, I'm going to compile 10 songs that I think people would like to listen to, and I'll just put them in the description. If you don't like this video, feel free to skip through it. I just thought I'd make a video about the autobiography because I just read it and I found it interesting. And I really think that Francoise Hardy's music is good and worth listening to. And therefore, if I just convert one person, that's my job done, I guess, for the day.